We recently got one of the most anticipated Forza releases to date. The Forza Horizon series has always had me yearning for an open-world racing game that took place in Japan. Horizon just has the right things that I thought would make for a great open-world racing game set in Japan. I might be a bit biased since it's my home country, but it's more than that. Although Japan does not exclusively hold all racing culture significance, it has so much racing heritage and pop culture reverence amongst enthusiasts. Japan is one of those places I feel that many car people see as almost a fantasy land. A place that has notoriety in street culture with drifting, toge, and expressway racing. It's something that seems untenable anywhere else, but it felt like it was thriving in this part of the Far East. It's a place that birthed some of our favorite shows, movies, and historical feats in motorsport. It gave us Best Motoring and Option Magazine, Initial D, Wangan Midnight, influences from the JGTC and the Japanese stages in WRC. Even looking at things like the Fast and Furious franchise and now the Drift movie with Sun Kang, Japan seems like the logical next step in the Forza franchise and has been for some time. I think I speak for many in the Horizon fan base that we've been wanting this for a while. I remember playing Horizon 2 as my first Horizon game when it came out and just wished we could have the twisty mountain passes of Japan and the elaborate Shudo Expressway to race on. And now here it is, Forza Horizon 6, set in Japan. To be honest with everyone, I wasn't expecting a Horizon game to ever really get to Japan. They've gone all over the world, and quite frankly, I was expecting them to utilize a different part of Asia, and I wouldn't say I'd blame it if they had. The Japan setting comes with such high expectations that if they didn't hit the mark, it could have been as bad as being the potential downfall to the franchise, especially after the disaster that was the previous Forza Motorsport entry. I've now sunk over 100 hours into the game, so I want to get into what I've been able to experience in the time I've played, all the good, the bad, and the subjectively ugly things. When playing any racing game, one of the most important things would be the driving experience and physics. Whether you're playing a dedicated sim game like iRacing, LMU, and Assetto Corsa, or playing an arcade-style game like Need for Speed, Midnight Club, and Burnout, the driving physics needs to be fun and applicable to the setting of the title. The driving physics is essentially our player-controller equivalent of like an FPS game, right? It's the thing that the player would come to expect to interact with the most. Racing games really need to harp on this aspect as it truly can make or break the game if it isn't authentic or fun to drive in. A game like Forza falls into the simcade style of physics that aims for a balance of a sim and accessibility of an arcade racer. It's what I think is some of the more difficult types of physics to nail, since it has to please both the more realism-oriented players and the more casually oriented players that may not even be interested in racing games. The Horizon series has captured that simcade feel brilliantly for the past titles, and it's no different this time around. Horizon 6 brings that old tried and true formula that they've had and brought meaningful updates to the physics without compromising the accessibility of the game. With decent updates to the tire physics and force feedback on wheel setups, the game has caught up well with how players interact with racing games nowadays. For me, the biggest plus has been in the force feedback and wheel support department. Forza has always focused on gameplay using controller, and this is something that the game has always done well. I know some of my friends on certain sim setups have had issues with hardware compatibility in the game, but I'm very happy to see the improvements to wheel support. It finally feels like the game is seriously considering us players on wheel setups, which has always kind of lacked in the past games. Horizon 5 towards the end had decent wheel support, but Horizon 6 out of the box on my Thrustmaster wheel with third-party accessories worked flawlessly. Normally I would be messing around with my force feedback settings and Googling stuff to try to troubleshoot issues, but this time around I'm happy to report that the game is feeling pretty decent without having to do too many workarounds. Sorry, Moza users. For returning players to the franchise, whether you're using a wheel or a controller, you'll be right at home with some improvements to physics that the more sim-oriented players will probably appreciate. Some of the accessibility features have been a mild problem, but it's this balance of sim and arcade that has brought a lot of my friends together, even those that aren't necessarily car nerds. And it's thanks to this happy balance of simcade that got my more casual friends into the game. I will say this, the visuals and graphics are par for course for a Forza title. It's kept up pretty well with other titles we see. The audio is half decent, but also kind of generic, and I speculate that it stems from the overall scale of the game, which would have something to do with that. Honestly, not surprising since Forza has always struggled to nail car sounds for a while now. overall visual experience for Horizon 6 is that it provides breathtaking aesthetics in certain conditions. My biggest visual gripe would have to be with the UI, which isn't surprising when you look at the gaming space today. The UI in the last few Forza titles have been less than stellar, although it's not the worst. Looking at you, Motorsport. I often found myself struggling to find things in the menus. Sometimes it's unclear or located in a spot where it wouldn't really catch your eye. It could be improved, but it is certainly serviceable. Horizon 6 is packed full of things to do. I've enjoyed some of the progression aspects where it is wristband based, with events being locked behind those milestones. Although it ultimately isn't too different from the past Horizon titles, it is presented in a way that gives the player more of a direction on what we need to be doing. Maybe it's just the way I remember things, but the last couple of games just felt like an infinite sandbox, which can also be a good thing. I'm just one of those players that like being nudged a bit into a direction to do things rather than have an open world map that, with what feels like endless tasks to complete for no rhyme or reason. They have a nice feature for players like me where you can have the game tell you what you need to do next, but also leave things up to you for people who like that sort of freedom in these games. There's definitely no shortage of things to complete here, with a wide variety of races, PR stunts, cars to discover, and side tasks to experience. One of the side tasks I really enjoyed for the first 30 minutes was the delivery job you can complete for credits. It's a game mode where you are basically completing DoorDash orders in a K-truck, but you have specific challenges that change with every delivery that you need to complete. I say I enjoyed it for the first 30 minutes because after a while, you've pretty much experienced every variation of a delivery it can give you. Some of these challenges feel borderline impossible to 3-star and feels like not a lot of playtest or thought was put into it. And God forbid that you're like me and want to 100% complete everything in this game, because be prepared to spend hours trying to hit the max level on this thing. I think I legitimately spent over 3 or 4 hours just trying to grind this thing out. I'm no speedrunner or anything with these kinds of things, but I felt like I was pretty efficient with each challenge, and I still had to sink a ton of time just to complete this thing. I think it would have been nice to have more variety in the challenges it would offer, and maybe after a certain level, give us different vehicles or allow us to create our own delivery machine. In its current state, it just felt like a time sink for the sake of playtime in the game. The Horizon Showcase events are back, of course, and they're flashy and extravagant as always, but honestly felt kind of underwhelming. It's really just another race or time trial with some Michael Bay nonsense going on in the background. It was cool the first couple times, but I think I'm a bit burnt out on these. It just doesn't feel like there's any stakes on these events, just an interactable cutscene you play. We did get a new race variant, which is the 1v1 toge races. I actually enjoyed the idea of these and would love to see more roads and tracks implemented in this format. For us to enjoy Rivals events, we also got the new time attack locations, which we can just drive to and start lapping, which has been really fun. Kind of disappointed that we didn't get more of these, but the idea that we can just drive to a track and start lapping is super nice. The bread and butter of Forza is still here, and with some improvements. The vehicle customization is pretty decent, but it leaves the body modifications a bit to be desired. At least we get window stickers now after all these years. The new custom garage feature is pretty neat, but to be honest, you don't really see much of it in actual gameplay. Like in Horizon 5, the seasonal events are back for those of us well into the end game, as I guess we can call it. The time-limited series of tasks and races that we need to complete to unlock some exclusive vehicles. I'll be honest, I've never been a big fan of this, as I don't really enjoy limited time events in games. It just feels disrespectful to our time, but it is on par with other modern video games when it comes to live service content, I guess. It's not horrible, and there's nothing much new here if you've played the last Horizon game. Again, like in the past Horizon titles, there are no shortage of things to accomplish, even though there are parts that feel uninspired and tedious. I can talk about all the features and content within this game, but if you've played a Forza Horizon title in the past, you got a pretty good idea of what to expect here. With decent improvements to the overall experience and some new features, I say this is a pretty good entry into the series. That's not to say that it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's Forza we're talking about here. There are some ugly parts to this game that cannot be ignored, and the worst offenders appear in both the driving AI and the story narrative, along with the characters that tell it. You see, the Horizon games have always had this problem where you don't necessarily feel like you need to do anything. There's no stakes, no relationship with your garage inventory, no real meaning other than participation and completion of tasks. Maybe some of us are okay with this, and I have to admit that I used to be that way. In previous Horizon games, the story and journey didn't matter too much. I was content that we had an open world racing game with decent gameplay and a plethora of content. The game has always felt too easy and artificially difficult at the same time. It doesn't have grit like racing games I grew up with. The best example I have off the top of my head would be the older Need for Speed series like Most Wanted and Pro Street. Those games had a certain level of edge. It had risk you had to take and hope that it would pay off in the next race. The story may have been corny, but it pulled you in, gave you a common enemy to fight against and work toward defeating. The narrative gave you purpose to why you were investing in the starter car or why you would consider buying something different. These kinds of games created a relationship between you and the car you chose. You didn't have instant access to every imaginable vehicle in the roster. Some might say that it's what makes Forza what it is, but the cars in my Horizon garage, some of them I've never even driven or knew were in there. In these older games, each car had a purpose and story in my journey. I could tell you with most of the cars in the garage how I got it, why I gave it the setup I did, and the races I've won and lost in it. The aspect of car ownership in games just felt so much more satisfying and meaningful compared to what we have now in the Forza series. In Horizon 6, what car you choose in the beginning doesn't matter anymore. It's not actually choosing a car for ownership, it's just what do you want to drive first. The large selection and collection you can amass is an awesome part of the game, but also one of the biggest shortcomings. You may not care for this aspect, and maybe I'm just getting old, but I found more enjoyment and less with the experience it gave me. Here in this game, it feels kind of hollow, just like the characters and storytelling. You have nothing at stake here, nothing to fight for. I couldn't tell you any of the characters' names from the top of my head. It may not matter much in a racing game, but I've never played something where I just wanted to skip all cutscenes and mute the dialogue. The Horizon 6 story and script is so uninspired, it just all feels like it was written by an AI prompt. Nothing in this game's narrative makes me want to try other than for the sake of completion. They had influential people like Larry Chen and wasted away in the most uninspired and bland piece of content this game has to offer. They honestly did him dirty. Like, just listen to this.
Beauty spots near me online.
Sounds sort of like a plan. Hey, do you mind if I catch a ride? I'll let you know how you can help me along the way. Hey, cool. How's the search going?
Well, I got sidetracked looking at cats.
The game is always too happy, like the world is almost too perfect. Nothing wrong can happen here, and it gets annoying, like, why is everyone so happy? Most of this game is experienced in solo or cooperative play against driving AI. Forza drivatars have always been a point of critique, and that hasn't changed a bit here. The AI are not good and sometimes downright infuriating. God forbid if you want to do a clean race because all these NPC drivers around you are playing Burnout or Wreckfest. The difficulty scaling doesn't even make sense, like they're either completely incompetent at operating a motor vehicle or they're Max Verstappen with infinite horsepower and lateral grip. You lower the difficulty and you introduce the entire grid to the menu at Gapplebee's, you up the difficulty and they now outpace you tenfold. They blatantly cheat with sudden power boosts and straight lines and unlimited lateral Gs around a corner and a Ford F450. This isn't unheard of in racing games. Devs tend to try and have the AI boost in speed or artificially slow down in hopes of keeping the race closer to the player and more action-packed. But on some of the higher difficulties, not even on quote-unquote unbeatable, the AI feel pretty unreasonable. It only encourages dirty driving and more meta-oriented cars to win some races that just doesn't feel fun. Since we can't qualify for grip position or adjust race length to give the player more time to catch up to AI opponents, it truly does feel unreasonable. There have been some changes in recent updates to the AI, and I think it has helped a bit, but we need to see some comparisons and testing to really know if it's made a difference or not. I will say that this AI behavior has birthed one of the best villains in racing. The game has gotten most of the bases, the bones, so to speak, correct, but it falls short in the details. I think the devs really missed out on some awesome pop culture references here. Like, it's so close, but always not quite there. We got Mount Haruna, but how cool would it have been if they implemented hookable gutters like in Initial D? During one of Larry Chen's missions, how awesome would it have been if instead of jumping the GT over the intersection in Tokyo, we got to drift an Evo between crowds as a nod to Tokyo Drift? I don't know, maybe I'm being overly critical, but it's only because the game is in fact awesome. I'm glad we got Horizon 6, and it's a game that we need in the racing subgenre of video games. It could be better, and I'm optimistic after seeing some of the updates we've gotten so far. With that said, my short conclusion, Forza Horizon 6 is a certified banger. In the grand scheme of things, it does a lot very well, but like in the past Horizon games, it leaves more to be desired. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have been enjoying the game, if you disagree with the things I've said, or if I'm just too unk for modern gaming and it's all in my whiny little head. I appreciate all of your time. Have a good one, and bye-bye.